Hi, it's the Sharp Knife Woman, and I have been doing moccasin repairs this week. I was prompted by a client who needed some of the moccasins I made for her several years ago repaired. And in the process, I got inspired and pulled out my own moccasin box and decided to go through and do some repairs and some fix them ups just to make them feel new and fresh and quite frankly wearable again, because after a while you get to the point where it's just like, I don't know if I want to wear that. But sometimes just mending those holes, fixing any loose beadwork, and adding a little bit of paint can really freshen up an old pair of moccasins. And I'm a little late in the game on this video, but I thought at least I would give you a quick overview of how and why I do this. When you add paint, it eliminates the need for excessive beadwork and quill work, and it also just really makes the moccasins pop. Now, this is something that was very traditional. In fact, museum samples will show you that the majority of moccasins actually worn were either plain or plain with paint, maybe minimal beadwork with the paint. And so let me show you just a couple examples of ones that I've already finished. This is a pair. I put chromium oxide, which is the green color that we get. It's an earth pigment paint. The moccasins were kind of a lighter colored brain tan. And so when they faded and there was no green color left, the yellow beads really pretty much looked the same color as the leather, and it just didn't stand out the same. And so I've added green paint to these, and now I have what will feel like a new pair of moccasins again. And I did all my repairs, so I'm pretty excited about those. Here's a pair that I definitely needed to do some work on. This pair is a pair that I actually ended up wearing in the rain, and so they stretched a little bit and they were kind of funky and hard, and so I spent a little bit of time working them. When brain tan gets hard, as long as it's been smoked, you can usually go back and rub it and work it and loosen that leather back up again. And these have partial paint here on the toes in another traditional Cheyenne design, right? And that yellow just really makes the beadwork pop and just really adds to the overall feel of the moccasins without them having to be fully beaded. The last pair I'm going to show you, I'm actually going to show you how I'm going to paint these. This is, now don't look at the beadwork on these and laugh, because this is the very first pair of moccasins I ever made. And I made these moccasins 29, 30 years ago. And I'll tell you what, they've been resold, but they've lasted. A few repairs to the beadwork, and they still need some paint. The paint goes actually right here in this tongue area, and it's going to just be the red to fill in that area there. This is a very traditional design that I followed, and for whatever reason, they just love having that paint to offset the beadwork and to be a big part of the design. So to paint that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this red ochre. This happens to be my own red ochre. It's the stuff I dig over in eastern Wyoming, in a spot where the indigenous peoples of North America have dug paint for thousands of years. It's been archaeologically studied and proven. And there are large deposits of this pure, beautiful, amazing earth pigment over there. You've got pure earth pigment when there's no rock in it. There's no sand, there's no grit. You could take this and actually rub it on your skin and it wouldn't feel gritty. It actually feels almost soft and silky. And when you touch it, it just rubs right off. In fact, it almost has, I don't want to say a clay-like feel because it's not clay, but it really has just a really soft, almost metallic feel to it. If you would think about what a Teflon might feel like, it's probably that slipperiness, right? And so that's what's on there. And so you see how easily that rubs onto my hands. This is why they use this paint on their skin, because it rubbed on very easily. It stays, you just rub it on dry. Didn't have to put any water with it like you do with modern paints. If you're going to put it on rawhide, you want to put it on the rawhide while the rawhide is wet. The rawhide soaks it right up, and it absorbs it and holds that paint in the fibers very well. And then all you have to do is put a light fixative like cactus juice on it. Well, today we're putting it on brain tan, and we want to make sure that we are putting it on here dry. When you're doing rawhide, you're going to actually mix it with water and make it a little bit wet. But today I'm just going to take this and I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to use my finger, rub that on there. Okay. And it's a simple process. I want to do this dry instead of wet, because as soon as you get that wet, it makes the brain tan hard. And we don't want it to get hard. We simply want it to absorb the color. Now, once I've rubbed the pigment on there, I'm actually going to take the back of a pencil that I've broken off, and I'm going to rub that in, because my goal is to have that actually get embedded in the fibers in between the brain tan, not just sit on the top, right? And as I do that, it gets a little lighter, so I'm going to add just a little bit more. And as I rub that in, now you can use a piece of rag, you can use paper towel, anything you want to rub that in. But the key is, especially if you're doing a larger piece of leather, like the top of a dress, for instance, that you really lay it down flat and just really rub that paint in. That's the main part of fixing it, okay? You don't need to add a whole lot of sprays or any other hoopla stuff to fix it if you rubbed that paint in well and then hang it on the clothesline and let all that extra paint fall off. Okay. So there's the first one. I'm going to go ahead and paint my second one real quick, just so you can see the pair of them painted together. There's a lot of misconception about what earth pigment paint is. Yes, there are rocks that have pigment in them, but using those rocks to paint something is much more difficult when the majority of what you have is granite and other kinds of stone that are not going to be permeable. They're not going to be kind to your brain tan or to your rawhide, and they're much harder to extract. This is what you want, the pure stuff. And it's easy to find in all colors: green, yellow, black, white. There was no blue dye in North America, so blue is indigo. It's an imported color. It comes from the Orient, came as a trade item. And so when you're doing the earth pigment paints, this is what you're looking for. Anyway, just wanted to give you a quick update on that. If you're ever looking at wanting to just give your clothing a little bit of a spice, just go ahead and use some earth pigment paint for that. Thank you for watching. This is the Sharp Knife Woman. If you have questions or comments, please put them down below. If you need a source for high quality, authentic earth pigment paint, also let me know. I'd be happy to help you out with that. Okay, Wachin Kinte. Have an amazing day.